have to become a master of efficient use of space with tiny houses.
Hi, my name is Joanne Flynn from Brandywine, Maryland, and we live in the rural area. I've lived in a lot of alternative housing spaces, vans, and campsites and school buses. And I just always like the efficiency of living small and spending most of my time outside doing things.
I grew up in 3 different homes, all of which my dad built. And he had a lot of satisfaction in living in a home which he created as opposed to which somebody else built for him. And to me, living in other homes that other people have built, it's never really felt like my space. I've always just felt like a guest.
I'm Nancy, and I'm from Northern Virginia. We actually own 2 houses right now, but with 4 kids, I was interested in tiny houses for one of them to hopefully move back home.
I don't want something I have to maintain. I want something I can pick up and move wherever I want to live and have a simple life.
First off, just thanks for all of you for coming to the workshop. I'm just going to say I'm Lee. I had no building experience before starting my tiny house about almost 2 years ago now, year and a half ago. Had met some folks who also wanted to build tiny houses in the district, and having spent a few years Googling tiny houses DC, tiny houses, and not finding anyone, we decided to do something in a community and that we wanted to be more public with it and not just be in someone's backyard hidden away. So there's a little bit of risk with that, and we'll talk about that during the community section. But I help co-found Boneyard Studios, and I've lived sort of all over the world and moved around every couple years, so that's me. I was told that in 3 months' time, $25,000 and 14 sets of tools, I could build my own tiny house with no building experience, and it just is not true. And what I want to mention as we move into this section is really interesting to hear all of your reasons for building tiny houses, and I share a lot of them. I think this idea of not having a mortgage. I've lived in DC for 5 years. It's the most expensive place I've ever lived. I do have a good government job. That's partly why I wanted to hire someone to help me build, because I was like, I can work my job and still help someone else, have a job as well and learn throughout the process. But I don't want to have a job just to pay a mortgage. And I knew if I bought a house here, I would be tied to that job. And while I love my job, I might want to go back and work for a nonprofit or education and cut my salary. And I also did want the flexibility of being able to move it. And I think one of the myths about tiny houses is that people do it. We always get asked, like, oh, you guys are so environmental or sustainable and off-grid. But it's more about economic freedom and about choosing to live our lives the way we want to live them, rather than, as you said, paying all this money so someone else can get rich, or just having a job so you can pay the rent.
Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
What are you clamping into?
Oh, I was clamping just these 2 boards together.
Cool. Yeah, you can do that.
And then you can do maybe, okay. I'll put this one together. Good.
Okay, so then get your first, that side.
Oh, whoops.
And then use your square to square that side. I'll just hold this here.
Yeah, and I can hold it too. Okay.
Cool.
Oh, that was nice. That was a beautiful goal too.
go back to that slide with the double doors. This is something I wanted to identify because it's something that we haven't done at all out on at Boneyard, but it's something that we've talked a lot about in the sense of the size of doors are really, there's a lot of advice that you read of people putting in 24-inch wide doors. And so think about your openings and think about yourself and your comfort. I'm a pretty big person, but I'm pretty skinny too. Walking through a 2-foot wide door to me is like, it's a bruising activity. I mean, we had the fencel out on the lot, and every time I went through there, I whacked some piece of my body trying to go through the door because it's just so narrow, you're not used to walking through something that small. So the double doors, you'll see if you start looking at precedent examples of tiny houses, people are starting to use French-style doors that the scale and proportion is really nice, but you get the wider door that way. So rather than going to, say, a 36-inch single door, you can go to a French door, 2 18-inch.
So just a brief overview of this house. This one is owned by Jay Austin, and he pretty much designed all of this stuff himself. He's not an architect, he's not a designer. He had no prior building experience, but he wanted to build his house as much as possible. So he approached me with the idea of building it together and teaching him how to build as we go so that he could have a hand on it as much as possible. So that's what we did. There's a lot of really neat design features of this house. The main thing being the flat roof. Like you walk into this house and it feels so much more spacious because you don't have this ceiling coming down on your head. All the water in this house is captured rain. So the roof looks flat, but it has a slight pitch from back to front. It drops about 6 inches. There's a gutter at the front of the house that all the water goes into. It goes down the rain chains and it collects in plumbing hidden underneath the house, which drains into a holding tank. The water in that holding tank then gets pumped up into 2 tanks that are on the back of the house. That water then goes into the house. It goes into a filtration system that's under here. You know, if you think about like a typical American household, I think a family of 4 uses something like 100 gallons of water a day just between washing clothes, showers, dishwasher, stuff like that. He's got a total of 80 gallons that's dependent on how much it rains. So he has to be really kind of frugal with his water consumption. But, you know, he's got a sink. One of the things that we installed in the house to kind of help with preserving water, instead of having a tap that you turn on and just let run, this one has a foot actuated pedal. I think Matt touched on it a little bit today. Because the space is so tiny, just the act of like breathing the moisture in your breath, respiration, can quickly inundate a tiny house space with too much moisture. So we're going to deal with that more in detail, but this clay product helps with that.
I have been a part of the whole process of building it, so I have all these memories of people coming to help me, and you know, there was a mistake on the side of my siding and someone didn't put caulk up before the furring strip, you know, and so we had a little bit of a leak, or some of the screws are off on the one dormer panel, and I know which friend did it because he was just like tacking them up there. But those types of stories, and you know, the day that my toilet was leaking and I was just crying in my bathroom, and just makes the place feel so much more lived in, even though I haven't even lived in it yet, because I've had so many experiences out here. You wouldn't want it to be easy, right? There's something through that process of hard work and struggle and conflict that makes it very worthwhile and valuable.
So,
Do you typically like work on the weekends, or do you?
Oh, no.
You know, this is definitely the most beautiful space I've ever seen for dick jokes. Like, this is amazing. It's beautiful. Usually we're in like a very dark room. We can't see your faces. So this is good. I can see all your faces. It's not intimidating at all. It's great. feeling good.
First off, like, okay, so how many of you guys have actually been here before, like to this thing? Okay, so I came like a couple weeks ago, and this is my first time ever being here. And what I love about it is it's like the most interesting form of gentrification possible. Because it's like a trailer park except for classier, right? Like there's no meth being sold out of here, but a lot of vegetables. It's like the craziest thing I've seen, basically. And I've not traveled a lot of places, but this might take the cake. You guys all bike? Who all biked here? A few people. So you guys have almost been killed too, right? Like I've been hit a couple times. I was almost killed about a month ago. So this van cut me off and I almost get hit. I see it, I swerve, and I'm furious. I'm about to curse and scream and call this every name in the book. And then I started to giggle because I saw it was a bike share van. And I was like, I can't get mad at this. Like, this is hilarious. Because, like, think about in the most ironic hipstery death possible.
I really wanted the feeling. I grew up overseas, and so living in the Marshall Islands, for instance, or Latin America, you walk into someone's home and there's less of a divide between public and private space like there is in the US. And I wanted that feeling. I didn't want to just have my own little tiny house out on some piece of land by myself. I think that actually feels quite lonely to me or isolating. So I wanted my own home, but at the same time I wanted it to be in a community, and I just liked the creative challenge of it as well, because a lot of people in the tiny house community have been talking about trying to create a community, but no one had really done it yet. It's a very gray area of the zoning and code. So we just decided, well, let's try it out and see what happens.
I like it. Right, I was thinking about that.
It's a good sized shower.
Yeah.
32 by 30. You guys didn't go for the 2x2 shower?
No, not for this.
We're talking reality.
Yeah, no.
That no matter how much you turn that vent on, when people poop, you smell it.
Well, but it'll be your poo.
If you're in a tight house. So where you're saying the toilet should move or the kitchen should move?
Have you decided how wide you want your bathroom?
Well, we're trying to decide if we want to go this way or sideways.
Do you want a stand-up shower or a tub?
Stand-up shower, I would say.
Do you want a corner stand-up shower or a square stand-up shower or a rectangle stand-up shower?
I think it's just the regular standard.
He's so big. Why is he so big? You think it's a garter? It's big. It's fucking huge. Do you think it's gonna?
See how the head is kind of shaped like a diamond?
Yeah.
The scales are red, like the red at the corners, and and I guess dark green and like olive, with kind of a diamond-shaped head with eyes facing like perfectly outward, and kind of like an aggressive-looking head, right? So
It's very pointy.
we'll see what it is. It's a good-sized snake, though.
Yeah, that's a big one. Where'd you find it?
Where the tractor implements are. I'm gonna go put them back.
We originally wanted to buy a house that was going to be a vacation house, a bunch of people. And then we went, me and my sister and another of the founding members we were in Hawaii working on farms, and we met Joe. And Joe, I think, filled our heads with this crazy idea. So he was like, I built my own house in Indiana, and it was like this, and it's sustainable, and earthships. And that was when we started to think, at least me and my sister, we were like, maybe this is a really good idea. So then we told all the other people who were thinking of buying a vacation house, and most of them said, no, that's crazy, we don't want to do that. But the ones who stayed, those are the ones who became the founders of the dacha.
Essentially, I think the only real skill that I brought to the table that I think was worthwhile to getting the community off the ground was that because I had already gone through building my own house, I learned that it was a doable thing and that it wasn't something you should be afraid of, and that you'll make a lot of mistakes and you'll waste a few $1,000s, but at the end of the day, you'll get what you want. So I just impressed upon people that it was actually not that difficult thing to do, to build your own place, and that whatever we didn't know, we could learn easily. And the worst case scenario would be a couple wasted days' time, maybe some scratches and Band-Aids, and maybe a worst case scenario, a couple $1,000s that we would have wasted. But we would have learned something that we would carry with us for the rest of our lives.
We bought the land, and we had this idea that we would all build a straw bale house on it. But none of us, like 5 of the 6 of us, had like never built anything before. So we decided, let's start off like building something small, just so we can like get to know how to use the tools, like see how we work together and all that stuff. And so we got the land, and one fun thing was that Lily and I were just walking, and we kind of stumbled upon our neighbor's house, and we looked over and we're like, that's a straw bale house. Like somehow, by chance, we bought land right next to a straw bale house. So we were kind of like, wow, this is a sign. We just happened to like move into people, like next to people who are gonna be able to help us, and we can like collaborate. Or they invented these tools. Like one of the tools is called a slidulator.
Wow, there you go. Good. Straw bale is good for aggression.
Now those spots on top that you see, they're left because they're just a little smaller than a bale size. So we're going to show you how to make those bales behave and fit right in those spots. So, you know, so there's no gaping holes in the wall. Like a straw!
Most of us, except for Joe, had never built anything. Or some of us had never even used any power tools. So it was an experiment, like a class for us, learning how to do everything in a micro, smaller version of the big thing. And we did learn a lot. We learned that we didn't want to do straw bale for our main house. And so then the next summer, we started building the main house. And we didn't have enough money to build the whole thing. So we said, we might never have the money to build the whole thing, so let's just build what we can. And we built the common area, and just one big room, which is what we always wanted, something open so that if you're in the kitchen, you can be interacting with the people in the living room, and like a big space where a lot can happen with a lot of people. It's like the public space for guests and for ourselves to do projects. And it was hard work. It was really hard work, but we were really aligned at that time, really just had this common goal, and we knew what we were working towards. This is the first flush of the toilet.
Then we gotta run. 1, 2. Okay, let's go. Stop. Come on.
Run! Tank to the tank. Do you see it? Wow. First water in the septic system. Unbelievable. Woo!
That was exciting.
None of us subscribe to rigidly dogmatic ideals per se, but all of us want to be more self-sufficient. We want to be much more conscious of the things that we're doing. Going into it pretty early on, we knew that it was going to be expensive to get grid electricity to where we would build the house. So we chose to buy a very, very old diesel generator that we could run on waste cooking oil from all the restaurants that service all the college students. And so we chose to spend about $4,000 buying a generator that allowed us to have unlimited power, basically, whenever it was on. And so, while we've discovered tying our lifestyle to a specific machine very entwined has a lot of drawbacks, it's also allowed us the vast majority of the time to kind of live off grid, but have some of the benefits of being on grid.
We're at the bottom of the barrel here, so I think maybe I'll get Joe to bring us some more.
When a community is centered around a dogma, some ideal, that is very problematic. So you say, hey, we all believe in this one thing, and that's why we're starting this community. I think that the better plan is to look at the people and to think of the people as the more important thing than the idea, because the people will change. So you might have an idea, and hey, it might be a great idea. It might be the idea of sustainability. We want to be sustainable. But what happens when a person changes? What if, they have some experience, maybe they have a child or they have anything, and they decide, I need something that's kind of wasteful. Do they get kicked out of that community? No. I think that if a community is centered around the people that make it up, and considers those people and the changes that are going to happen with those people, because you're always going to change, that community will last longer. Look, if you want us to sing the national anthem, I'm sure you can do it. Cool. Say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, neat. Great. Wow, thank you. This is awesome.
And the
melted. It wasn't really soft. It wasn't so good.
I was distracted.
Sparkles.
I think it's better when you don't have too much expectation. And sometimes I get anxiety about it. And I think, well, what's going to happen? What's this place going to turn into if this person does this or that person does that? But I think especially more recently, I've just decided to not worry about it, because the truth is you want people to do whatever is best for them. You want them to, if they need to leave, they should be able to leave. If they need a break, you know, if they need a change, if you care about them, you want them to have what they want. So ultimately, I want everyone to be happy. And so I think what we have here is really special. And I think we've done a really good job, and there's a lot of possibility and potential. And I love the potential. I love thinking about everything I can get done here and the projects I can do, and wherever it goes, however the people change, it's still gonna have that, and it's gonna be exciting for somebody at some point in their life, and they're gonna do something good with it. So I think we have a solid foundation. Yeah, so I think it's good. Like, don't expect anything from it, but just have kind of faith in it, I guess. Give me land, lots of land, under starry skies above. Don't fence me in, let me ride through the wide open spaces that I love. Don't fence me in, let me be by myself in the evening breeze. Listen to the whisper of the cottonwood trees. Send me on forever, but I ask you please, don't fence me in. Don't fence me in. Woo.
Welcome to Stillwater Sanctuary, home of the Possibility Alliance and the superheroes. Press 0 at any time to leave a message. Ethan, Sarah, Etta, and Isla are on sabbatical until mid-August, but please leave a message for the rest of us here on the farm. We hope you're having a wonderful summer. Welcome.
flesh with white bruising blue,
Yeah,
becoming
here you
blue
go.
in the front. That's it.
That's totally it.
Indigo milky.
Mhm.
Hey, it's edible.
Nuh-uh.
Look at that. 3 stars.
3 stars. Excellent. it
Excellent.
says.
What do you know?
Dinner.
The color of this mushroom is very unusual. So when you see a blue mushroom that bleeds blue, it's almost certainly indigo milky.
Nice.
Nice work.
Score.
You want to take a bite?
Don't we want to cook it?
It's probably a better idea. Does it give any recipes?
Mm-mm.
Oh. Whoa. It literally does bleed blue. Look at that.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh my gosh, it's staying with you. Just take a bite. Don't die. I got it. Oh, I think I got one.
Edible when young and fresh.
Edible question mark?
As it ages, the old man becomes crusty, wimpy, and tasteless.
Just like Grandpa.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me hear.
Don't get carried away. We are going to what?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god. Am I letting you do it? I guess I have. Match my sweater.
It does match your sweater, nice.
Sto milo, milo hidado, vostruga grande mammo du chianda imam, le levarai mome, mome calino, vostruga grande mammo du chianda imam.
Our vision is to be is to live for the upliftment of all life and reach our highest human potential. And in that statement, living for the upliftment of all life, we want everything and every being, all the things that go on around us and in us, and like everything that comes through here, to be regenerated, to be enlivened by interacting with us. Another thing that we seek to do here is implement permaculture. And permaculture, by my understanding, probably everybody's going to give you a different definition, but it's the conscious design of human settlements that exist in harmony with the rest of nature and with the rest of creation. So as a part of that, we're designing and thinking about our interactions with all the plant and animal species that exist around us. We've chosen to be electricity free and petroleum fuel free on the land here, and it's something that we're moving towards. It's not something that we're 100% on. We do make exceptions occasionally for filming and recording and other sorts of purposes, and also some people choose to use headlamps at night when they're doing chores, and then we have a landline phone that comes in an effort to be able to communicate with people relatively easily, so that we can arrange beautiful visits from beautiful people. There's been some shift in membership this year, and there kind of always is a shift in membership in the amount of people that are here. There's a lot of turnover. There's something like 6 or 7 apprentices, and they're here from anywhere from a number of months to 7 or 8 months to the whole growing season. And that's a general track for like becoming a member of the community. Come for a visit, and then apply to do a seasonal or longer term apprenticeship, which might be the thing I was talking about, a couple months to a whole growing season. And then after that, things are working out on all fronts, then apply to go through the rest of the membership process, which is, at this point, a year of provisional membership, which is basically just a year longer of being here and seeing and feeling through and discerning if it's working out for everybody, it feels like a good match. And then after that, you can apply for a full membership.
The rain is my sister, the rain is my brother. We sing together and we sing to each other. I listen to the rain, I hear it sing, I hear it sing. I listen to the earth, I hear it sing, I hear it sing. The earth is my sister, the earth is my brother. We sing together and we sing to each other. I listen to the earth, I hear it sing, I hear it sing.
Lots and lots and lots of support has come over the last 7 years, and lots of different people have come. They're originally expecting like maybe 100, 200 people to start coming each year, and pretty much starting the first year there was about 1,000 people that came to visit, and then in years after that it's been an average around 1,500 people that come through every year. Some come for a couple hours for a tour, some come for a couple of days for a brief visit. Some come for classes, which might be over a weekend or a couple weeks. And then some people come for a couple weeks for longer stays. And then some people come for months for internships and apprenticeships and stuff like that. And yeah, so all this energy that's coming in here and all the abundance that's come this way has made this place into what it is now. Thank you, friend. This time, we're holding the knife. And sometime down the line, something else will be for us as we all go through the circle of life. We promise to use your energy for good in the world. Thanks.
Grandmother's friend, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the voice of our ancestors. We are the spirit of love. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings across the universe. Who we are.
All right, so we have millet, egg frittata with sage and savory, and there's 2 of these. Leftover dilly beets and tossed salad with sunflower, apple cider vinegar, mustard. Enjoy.
Soup over there.
Yeah, and leftover pea soup is on the way.
Hey, what happened to the ladle bowl?
I just put it away because this needs to go out.
This is gonna end up in the most. I'm gonna put it on the other side.
The hot sauce kicking around somewhere? Hot sauce?
Bigger.
It was a Sunday, and I had just gone to the home landscape and architecture kind of meetup in the county fair area. It was like you pay $6, you get to walk around all these different vendors, and I was looking for kind of, a place to go work at. And I left that, and I was walking down the street and went into a restaurant, and there was one of those little free publications. It was Java magazine, little free magazine. I picked it up, and the centerfold was the picture of Arcasani. It was an article about Paulo Soleri retiring and naming Jeff Stein president of the Cosanti Foundation. And finding out about Paulo was very interesting, but the picture was, the centerfold, and it was just kind of mind-blowing. So I still have that magazine.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, go!
I was kind of worried, what am I doing moving into the middle of the desert with maybe 50 or 60 other people? But I've met more people here in the last 2 years than I did 10 years living in the city of Phoenix. So I can come here, move really nowhere, 15 acres, kind of where my whole life is, revolving. But people from all around the world will come here. So that's kind of the thing I think is most special about this place, is it's such a magnet from people, all kinds of people from all around the world.
Excellent. All right. You did the butterfly?
Yeah.
You're good. Doing so fast. But it's the most funny.
They call this west housing. On the other side is east housing. These are actually the very first apartments that were built here at Arcasani. I don't know who the lucky one was that got to move into them, but they're pretty nice. It's an energy efficient Facebook right here. You don't have to use electricity or
the old way of connecting.
Get face to face. You say what's on your mind. That's the wall right there we posted on.
Cool.
You can come up and like it if you want. Yeah, we have solar panels here, what we could get from grants and donations, but we're only getting probably maybe 10% of our own, producing 10% of our own electricity. Yeah. I was gonna say, that's my bedroom, so that big round window helps warm it up in the winter time too. Yeah, the state is, a lot of people have that idea that the plan was to be off the grid. I was talking about it a little bit earlier. And that really kind of wasn't Paulo's idea. It came from like Okay, MC. MC, Danny, let's show. All right, morning meeting. Let's start with some announcements. Jeff Stein.
I just wanted to let you know that Arcasani is not all frugal soup and above average temperatures and higher than normal wind speeds. It's also comic books. And so here's the first edition of the first chapter of a graphic novel coming to Arcasani soon about the Volks Cop.
What?
The Volks Cop.
The Volks Cop? Who's the Volks Cop?
All right, any other announcements?
Yes, today between 5 and 6 in the music room, we're going to be reading Shakespeare's Star Wars, parts of it. If anyone's interested to come out and be a character, read it, that would be fun.
Paulo Soleri was an architect trained in Italy. He spent the last half of his life putting all of his energy, all of his money into building a prototype arcology, which was his solution to urban sprawl, and that is a compact urban living, which is centered around people, not around cars, and which provides really high quality of life for the people living in such urban spaces.
The important things, I guess, of this architecture at Arcosani are utilizing the resources that we have and the number one resource, the sun. So it is all aligned to the sun, but it's also connecting us to the sun, connecting us to the natural environment around us, but also connecting us to each other. Your house is right in front of where you work, then that's your neighborhood, not just where you work. So it connects all these things, all these aspects of life.
We make bells out of bronze and out of clay. We refer to them as wind chimes because they're meant to be hung outside and they catch the wind. And the Solari bells, the first person to make them was Paolo Solari, and he was making them back in the 1950s as a way to support his family, and then they really caught on and became very popular. So it was that allowed him to accumulate enough money to actually buy property in order to begin the Arcosanti project, and he passed on his craft to the community. And the bell making is one of the major ways in which we bring income into this community.
So here's a little public service announcement. Here's this, it is a rather large bag of detritus, and it was in the paper and plastic barrel that goes to the dumpster ultimately right out here. And I, through careful investigation, because of a pay stub left in here, know where this came from. This barrel here is not for household bagged detritus like this. If you have a nice bag of stuff like that you have dutifully gathered, you should take the little hike out to the dumpster and place it in the dumpster and not leave it to our sturdy recycling crew to do it for you. So that's just a reminder that the barrels here are really meant not for household recycling, but for general public or room cleaning or more collective purposes.
You make a nice like solar curtain out of all the recycled tin top. From what I heard, it was at points 200 people out here, and they were all working together. It wasn't like they had a job working in ceramics. One had a job working in the foundry, and they went to their jobs. Everyone was kind of working together towards this common goal of building this place, and they had a lot more optimism, I would guess, from starting from scratch and watching and seeing what they've done, what they've accomplished. And it's kind of at this transition point that I find is really exciting, because it could just pop any day and something happens and the interest comes back in and the funding comes back in and families start moving in and it starts growing. hits that critical mass population, and then you can actually start testing the social aspects of living in an arcology.
Yeah, my parents have lots of bells.
Before I worked here, I worked in the foundry. And so everybody for Christmas one year got a bronze bell. And now we give everybody ceramic bells. I think we have to find a new gift next year. So many bells. Because like at my parents' house, if there's a storm, it's like, ding, 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 ding. Crazy. Crazy sounds.
Utopia, perfection, is a place you'll never be. You'll never make utopia. That's like giving up. That's, the end point is utopia. And to think that a place can become utopia and there will never be anything bad, that's just so naive to think that, That's, utopia is the end point. That's where you want to go, but you'll never be there. So to think like this place is utopia, that's very naive. No, if you're going there, it's not.
I thought you might be interested in the weather forecast for today. It's going to be clear and sunny, a high of 85. Winds from 5 to 10 miles an hour in the morning, increasing to, 15 to 25, later this afternoon. So if you were here yesterday and things were shaken, they're going to be shaken again. So don't leave your blow-awayables out where they can be blown away, please. And be prepared for the, what do we like to call that? The inevitable.
You want to share with me about that reflection that you had?
Well, we were playing a game where we were asking people to describe Burning Man in one sentence, try to boil it down to its essence. For them, it's going to be really different for everyone, but my sentence that I came up on the spot and I really like is that Burning Man to us is it's a post-scarcity social experiment where we find out what our true values are. We're out here, we have all of our needs met, shelter and food and everything for the week. And now we get to focus on what it is that how people would interact if they didn't have to work all the time in order to feed themselves, clothe themselves, shelter themselves. And we find out, status isn't money, status isn't a position in a company, status is how much you give to a community.
Drive-by shooting. Drive-by shooting. Thank you.
We're going to the man. We're going to the man. You want to go?
Ladies and gentlemen and burners, the Playa Choir. Amen. Praise be.
One Pabu Phi! One Pabu Phi! Help me, which please?
Somebody give me a honey-dee-lujah! 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 They are beekeepers, and having this sacred animal present here.
Piece of my heart in Black Rock City. I came back to get it back and to share it with Karen. Karen, will you marry me?
Come here your first year and you see what's going on, and it's an amazing party. There's no doubt, but that's really at the superficial level. You know, your first year you're amazed. Your second year you kind of get a clue about what's happening. The third year you start looking behind the curtain and going, what makes this place tick? What can I do to make this place amazing, and give back the gifts that have been given to me? And you just want to throw yourself into it, and you find your own niche, you know, whatever that is, in art or performance or volunteering or whatever. And so it really works really well, and I think that it's a model for how human beings could live together if they really wanted to.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Palenque Norte Speaker Series. I'm Pez. I'll be your host for the week. Yeah, we're actually just getting started here. We'll be going all the way through Saturday. This next talk is really special. I'd like to welcome Marion Goodell of Burning Man. Marion is the CEO of the Burning Man Project. And today, Marion will be interviewed by John Gilmore, who is a technologist and entrepreneur who has been speaking. So we'll just get right started. Thank you both so much.
Hi.
Hi, John. Thank you for having me here.
So Burning Man as sort of a cultural phenomenon has definitely impacted the mass culture, right? In what ways do you see you or the organizing group or the Burning Man culture has been successful in transmitting ideas out into the bigger culture?
The event naturally seems to inspire people to take what we've experienced here and either reproduce it or else find others that are adapted to it and engage with it. One of the things that happens at Burning Man is you're unafraid. You look at people in the eye, you smile at them a lot more often than you normally would. And I think that's a really easy starting point out in the world. And also being really kind to each other. Like here, there's no point in being bitter at your neighbor. Sometimes people are, but you might as well, if they're camped next to you, you're going to have to figure that shit out. We can find those opportunities outside of Black Rock City and generate those experiences and invite other people into them.
Yeah, he's making it look easy. I think maybe we should fuck it up a little bit. Don't make us look bad. Wow, there's all kinds of video going on right now. On him, on me. Who knew this would be so interesting? All right, great job, guys. Congratulations.